Hello, all you conspiracy theory types and also you non-conspiracy theory types out there. This is Conspiracy Todd with another episode, if you will, of Change My Mind. Today I wanted to make everybody aware of this article from Scientific American, March of 1959, written by Dr. James A. Van Allen. He is the guy who discovered, or who is credited with discovering, the Van Allen radiation belts, an area of intense radiation out here that surrounds the Earth. Now, in this first paragraph, he talks about the discovery that our planet is ringed by a region, or to be exact, two regions of high-energy radiation extending many thousands of miles into space. This discovery is, of course, troubling to astronauts. Somehow, the human body will have to be shielded from this radiation, even on a rapid transit through the region. Now, also, the date, 1959, March of 1959. This is 2 years before JFK talked to Congress about, trying to get to the moon. So this was 2 years before they even had an idea that we're going to go to the moon. So I think that this article would be very non-biased. It was also a year and a half after Sputnik, after the Russians launched the first satellite into orbit. Okay, this illustration here I think better describes the radiation belts around the Earth. This is obviously where it's most dense, and this is also another area of density. This one is located 2,000 miles above the Earth, and this one right here is centered about 10,000 miles above the Earth. Okay, the next thing I wanted to point out is this paragraph here. It says, our original observation had detected X-rays only. Now, it turns out that the X-rays had been generated by the impact of electrons on the skin of the instrument package, as if it had been a target in an X-ray tube. This is how they produce X-rays in the dental office. Electrons are beamed at a metal target, and then the X-rays are produced, and they focus that in a beam and send that through the patient's cheek and teeth and then onto an X-ray film, and that's how you take X-rays. So you can imagine a spacecraft, which is metal, going through this intense area of electrons at 25 or even 20,000 miles per hour. It's going to impact probably millions of electrons per second, producing massive amounts of X-rays. So, did NASA, find a way to protect the astronauts from that? If so, NASA has shown us all their diagrams of the spaceships and everything. Where is the lead shielding, or what kind of shielding did they use? I've never been able to find any. They always talk about how they were just in a thin metal spacecraft. I never saw any lead shielding. Maybe somebody can point it out in some diagrams, but I think they would need a lot of lead shielding to protect them from that kind of radiation. All right, the last paragraph I'd like to point out here is, our measurements show that the maximum radiation level as of 1958 is equivalent to between 10 and 100 roentgens per hour, depending on the still undetermined proportion of protons to electrons. Since a human being exposed for 2 days to even 10 roentgens would have only an even chance of survival, so 50-50 chance of survival. The radiation belts obviously present an obstacle to space flight. Unless some practical way can be found to shield space travelers against the effects of this radiation, manned space rockets can best take off through the radiation-free zones over the poles. And then he talks about space stations must be below 400 miles or above 30,000 miles from the Earth in order to be outside of these radiation areas. It's a really interesting article. You should read the whole thing. It's very interesting how he talks about how they took all these measurements, pitfalls they ran into. For instance, he talks about how for one of the first ones they sent up, it pegged out at 0, was because the radiation was more than what it could read, and so it was returning measurements of 0. Anyway, if you think we really went to the moon, I think you should read this and try to find some diagrams showing where the lead shielding or some sort of shielding was in the Apollo spacecraft to protect the astronauts from that what would have been, I think, an intense dose of X-rays for maybe 15, 20 minutes. Very, very high dose of X-ray radiation. And remember, all these astronauts, they lived to be in their 70s and 80s, so they lived a normal lifespan. I think if they would have really been exposed to very high levels of X-rays for a short amount of time, I think it would have damaged them in some way. They would have had a lot more cancer incidents. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Try to change my mind, and maybe I've changed some of your minds about the moon landing hoax. Thanks for listening. Please comment, subscribe, and like my video if you liked it. Thanks. Bye.